Welcome back to another episode of the 1949 Willys project. Last time we put this rocker on and this cab corner. Before we did that, we actually cut the floor out on the driver's side. In this episode, we're going to make a couple of patch panels, and we're going to put those in here. But I think we're going to start by fixing this rust in the cowl. So stick around, let's get going. So let's begin by getting a good look at the cowl, both inside and out. So I'm going to flip the cab over so we can see the whole thing. Let's take a closer look at this thing. On the outer cowl, we've got holes here, here, and a big one right there. So I'm going to need a good-sized patch panel. The good news is this is a completely flat piece of metal, so I can make this out of a piece of sheet metal pretty easy. Let's take a peek at the inside. Okay, on the inside, we're pretty much rotted from the bottom up all the way across there and back around. So there's one more patch panel here. And then on this flat panel, I don't know what we're going to do for sure. We got to come down from here at least and patch this piece in. But we also got a piece here that's kind of busted out. So I have to decide if I do this whole piece or do it in two. If I do the whole piece, then I have to kind of reset this body mount and make sure I get it in the right place. Or that's really a fender attachment mount. I made up some patterns for these patch panels. So the first one will go right there. This piece will go back on the inside. And then this one, I decided I'm going to do pretty much starting from here up and around, up to somewhere in here. And I've got 3 fender mounts in here. I'm going to leave these 2, but this fender mount is going to have to be removed with this panel. So in order to get that located, I actually made this template extra long and located holes in it so that I can basically mark this thing out and get these all lined up in the right place. There we go, just like that. So when I cut this panel out, I'm going to end up cutting here and here, but I know then if I get that lined up properly, this will land in the right spot as well. All right, I got all my panels cut. Now we're going to start fitting them up. I'm going to start with this outside one to get that sized up and in place, because this is really what needs to dictate the shape of this thing. So I will run this right to the edge here. I'm going to mark it. I'm going to cut this. Then this piece will be laid in. And then finally, that inside piece will go up. Okay, here's a quick rundown on my approach to this thing. I've got this cut out. I'm going to pre-treat the back side of this, this panel that's going in here before it goes in. And I'll do a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to leave this part up here. It's not pretty, but it's savable. So I'm going to clean this stuff up and treat it. And then for this piece, once this goes on, I just need to make sure this is the only mount point that's going to be replaced. These two will remain. So I put holes in here just to help align this. And I think all I really need is this bottom one. As long as this lines up with this, we're in good shape. So I've got this set in place. And then I'll end up, once I'm ready to go, I'll cut here just above this bolt hole. And I'll cut somewhere in the middle here. And once this panel is on, this one will be able to go on and just to follow that curve. Okay, let's stop off and see where we're at. I'm about halfway through this piece of work. So I've got the first piece tacked in out here. I cut away the bottom piece and I've already got my nut welded in there, got that placed. This is going to go in. I think I'm going to put this piece on last. So that's ready to go now. And the next thing I want to do before I get too involved in this is get this piece fitted in. And I'll show you one thing I have to do on this one. Okay, there is a little lip on this that would follow all the way around up to here. And I don't have the ability to, I don't have a shrinker, so I can't really bend that on there. So what I'll do instead is just cut a flat piece of metal and weld it in here so that when I put that piece in, I've got the lip on there and I've got something to attach this piece right here too. Got this piece all welded up. That's the inner portion. It's going to drop in here just like this. So I just need to cut this out and weld this in. Getting ready to weld this inner piece in. The outer piece I got welded up completely and ground off. Now this inner piece, it's tough to get it clamped right, so I'm just using some magnets. And I'll start, let's see if we can come over here. I'll start right down there getting that set in place and then I'll work my way around. The inner panel is in now. It's all welded in. And I put some weld through primer on there. Now the last thing I need to do is get this bottom plate in. And I'll just locate it right there. Tack it in and kind of work my way around. And I'll be welding this edge together and then I'll be plug welding on this side. Okay, that's it. The cowl repair is done. You can see we've got the inner patch in there. I didn't get too fussy about that. I'm not even going to grind it. That might get a little seam sealer, but it's going to all end up with undercoating. So I don't really care about that. And we got the rest of it welded up, ground off, ready for body work. Let's move on to the floor. Okay, this is a template that I put together in the last episode for the first patch for the floor. And I did it before I cut the old floor out, so it laid nice and flat. Now it's hollow underneath there, but we can see what we need to cut out of the metal. A couple of things that are not on this template that I'm going to change. So number one, I ran this right to the edge of the flange. I think I want this tucked up underneath that flange so that when I weld things, you wouldn't see a weld. So all I got to do is add maybe 5/8 of an inch to this piece and we should be in good shape. The other thing I need to do, can't really see it very well, but on this edge along this wall, I'm going to add just a little extra material so I can bend this up, because typically what it does, get a closer look there, you can see where the floor actually has a bend and then it's spot welded to the wall. So we'll do the same thing with this one. We're all cut out. I added extra on the bottom that I mentioned earlier and extra here so that we can put a bend in. So I got this. I've marked along this line where I want my bend to go. So let's take this over to the Wilton bender. With that panel cut and bent, I need to fit it in here and figure out where to start making bends. And I can't do that right now the way it stands. So this is what I'm doing instead of just starting to push on things. I grabbed a tape and I measured from the back of this floor panel here up to where I've still got a bend in the floor. So I know that I need to start my bend right there. On this side, it's a little tougher because I don't have any floor left to measure from. So I took a straight edge and I drew lines from both of these. I found the intersection, so I have a starting point. And I measured from there back again to this end of the panel. So I know I'm 21 inches over here and I'm 20 7/8 over here. So I took a measurement from the bottom up to this point, drew a line, and this is where I'm going to put that bend in the floor. Now I've got this flange, so I'm going to have to pie cut this flange as well so that can bend with it. We're back at the Wilton 6200 all-purpose metal shaper. This time I've got my bend attachment. And I've taken it's just a carpenter's angle finder, but I put this on the other side just to make sure I had a good angle. I know when to stop when I'm bending here. And so I've clamped this down to the pipe and I'm just going to gently work it until I have the curve I want on this. Okay, that's roughly it right there. Let's see how that works. I think we got things in the right place. Let's see here. What's next? I guess I could mark this and trim this side. That's the next thing that's holding me up. It's about an hour later. This thing's been in and out a couple dozen times. And a little cut here and a little cut there. And I've got this thing clamped in right now. I think this is going to be where I land this. I haven't completely cut the floor behind it yet. I still got work to do there. But I think what I want to do next is get those two ribs in, because I'm afraid putting those ribs in might change the shape on this just a little bit. And my approach here is to get this thing set in one more time and locked in. And then I think what I'm going to do is cut sections of it and tack it in so that I can kind of form it as I go. This is how I'm going to try to put these ribs in. I did it a little differently last time. I'm going to try something here. What I've got is two boards that are just far enough apart that I can use that as my trough. And then I've got my sheet metal. And then I've screwed two more 2x6s to the top real close to the sheet metal. Hopefully I can hold it flat with those. I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll try. And then I've just marked in here where I want that rib to start and end. So we're just going to get in and pound on that a little bit and see how it works. I'm going to catch my breath here. That last round on this one kind of warped this up a little. I think it was just dropping into that trough. I probably should have done something so that it didn't go beyond these spots, but I can hammer that out. And it's not pretty, but it's a floor, and I just wanted these in here so that it wouldn't oil can and I'd have some strength. So, mission accomplished. While it's in, now it was quite a struggle. Surprisingly a lot more than this side. I don't know why, but it was just a lot tougher fitting this one. And but it's just tacked in right now. I actually ran out of welding gas, so I couldn't finish it up. I had to run some self-tappers in along that flange just to get that locked into place. But it is in, and it looks no worse than the other side right now, and it is solid. So a lot more welding to do and a few small patches. I found a little spot up here where there was a couple of holes, so I just cut that out, and I'll put another little patch in there. But otherwise, it'll do. Now we just have to move on to this last piece that scoots up underneath the toolbox. Okay, we got one piece left to do right in here. And it's mostly flat, but I got one little problem. Let me show you. The floor I cut out, we had a piece that was kind of, it rose up here. And I'm trying to figure out how I could do that. So what I chose to do was just to cut out the part that sticks up and use this as a pattern to make another piece. If you look right here, I've already made that and welded it in. And now this creates a big flat plane. So when I put my bottom piece on, I can weld right to this. All right, this is a quick end of day recap. My buddy Guy came for the day and we just went to town on this thing and we didn't do any filming, but let me show you what we did. This guy focused on the lid for this thing, and in addition to stripping it of all the paint, he spent a lot of time with hammer and dolly and took out most of the bad dents. You can see there's a few that we couldn't reach with our equipment, and that's just going to be filled. But got a good start, and then just slap one coat of body filler on there just to start the work. So next time he's out, we'll start sanding on that. And while Guy was doing that, I kept at it on the floors. So first thing I did was fix this. We had the same kind of rust that we had on the other one. So I made this little patch panel, put a flange on there. So that's all done. And then I built this panel. So this is our final floor patch panel, shaped to fit perfectly underneath here. So that's going to fill in this and all up underneath that toolbox. So I'll be welding that in next. Here it is from the underside. So we're all welded in. Everything fit up really nice. So I'm pretty happy with it. You can see our corner piece there too. Our edge piece is all lined up good too. So next thing I need to do is get in here with a wire wheel and get this as clean as I possibly can. Next thing I'll do is get some rust converter on that. And when that's all dried, I can shoot it with a coat of primer. Then I'll do all of my seam sealer. I've been kind of waiting for this, and I've said seam sealer so many times, I'm sure you're sick of hearing it. But I'll get that on, and then finally we'll put some undercoating on this thing and call the floor done. That's it. The belly of the cab has been undercoated now, so I'm finished with this piece of work. This is a major milestone getting this thing out of the way. Next time around, I'm probably going to move around to the other side as we do more of the body work on the cab, and we'll hit the top side of the floor. This is the latest in a series of videos on this 49 Willys pickup project. I've recorded videos from the day I brought it home right up to this point. If you want to go back and see the progress, there is a link down in the comments below for a playlist. Now, if you want to see any further progress, I'll be recording more videos as I go. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel, and you should see every time I post up a new video. Now, if you're still with me, I'd like to thank you for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you next time.